Many of the leaders who led that crisis were right here in town. Stephen A. Douglas opened his first law practice here in 1833, while Abraham Lincoln was a frequent visitor and had many friends and acquaintances in town. The abolition of slavery and what should be done about it was an incredibly divisive issue amongst the townspeople. Nonetheless, a network of dedicated abolitionists and conductors on the Underground Railroad worked to move slaves toward freedom. David A. Smith, whose home is just behind us here, freed 21 of his own slaves in Alabama in 1837. He had to leave the state within 6 months, but found friends in Jacksonville, including Professor Jonathan Baldwin Turner. In the 1830s, Edward Beecher, our first president, befriended the journalist Elijah Lovejoy, who edited the St. Louis Observer. He advocated for the emancipation of slaves. And in 1836, pro-slavery elements in St. Louis attacked Lovejoy's right to free speech and drove him out of St. Louis. Believing he had friends in Jacksonville, Lovejoy appealed to Edward Beecher and Julian Sturdivant for help. In November of 1837, Beecher went to Alton to give anti-slavery sermons on Lovejoy's behalf. But he realized that that was very dangerous, and on November 7th, shortly after Beecher departed from Alton, a pro-slavery mob gathered around the warehouse and demanded Lovejoy's printing press. When Lovejoy stepped out from the warehouse, he was shot and killed. The printing press was broken into pieces and thrown in the river. Abolition was a divisive issue, and one that President Sturdivant believed actually hindered the growth of Illinois College. Community leaders expressed suspicion of the activities on the hilltop, while some parents, including the parents of Lincoln's future law partner, William Herndon, feared the college was too radical for their sons. In the May 1879 issue of the Rambler, Sturdivant wrote that the college did not die in that struggle, is success and ought to be glory enough. President Julian Sturdivant was also a friend of Abraham Lincoln and was very proud when he was elected president in the 1860 election. He had no idea, though, that that election would lead the country into war. Yet he had an inkling when a good friend in the ministry who had supported Stephen A. Douglas, quote, wept like a child and declared, now there will be war. During the first 100 days of the Civil War in the spring of 1860, the state of Illinois, under the leadership of Illinois College's first graduate, Governor Richard Yates, furnished more volunteers to the Union cause than any other state. In 1863, so many young men joined the military that President Sturdivant wrote, quote, the college became a rather dull place for teachers that lectured to empty seats. More than 240 students and alumni served in the Union, 12 served the Confederacy. The president typically instructed the senior class, but with so few students, or actually no students at all, Sturdivant decided to leave campus, and he embarked on a speaking tour of England to generate British support for the Union. But that doesn't mean there wasn't anything going on campus, because in the spring of 1864, President Lincoln issued a call for the 100 days service to relieve troops in the field. Professor Rufus Crampton thought it might be a good idea to raise a company, and he recruited all but one member of the senior class, although there were only 11, to join what became Company C of the 145th Regiment of the Illinois Volunteers. They served in Rolla, Missouri, St. Louis, and Alton as guards and laborers. 40 of the men in the Company C of 145th died from disease. Doubtless the Civil War left Illinois College, its students, and its faculty much changed. Upon hearing the news of Lee's surrender at Appomattox and Lincoln's assassination 5 days later, Sturdivant wrote to his daughter, quote, but yesterday we were rejoicing as no other people ever rejoiced. Today we are mourning as no other people ever mourned. May God strengthen us all to stand in our post